My name is Frank Morris. I am the Ward 9 Councilman. The other gentleman hosting this event is Kevin Fisher, who is in Ward 5. We have John Mario in Ward 7. And Edmund James Mack in Ward 8. So you might ask yourself, what is the purpose of having a meeting? Look around. It's called bringing the community together. Okay? This is something that some wards do on a regular basis. It's an opportunity to bring you together to tell us what we are saying. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to address something that is on everybody's mind. Nuisance properties and the effects it's really having on the city are leading to one of our favorite topics over in my area, crime. 90% of the crimes committed in the city are happening on rental properties. Because these are the type of people moving into these rental properties that the landlords don't really want. And they're just moving in droves. Okay? We have to get this under control. When it comes to vacant properties, our landlords in the city are as frustrated as we are. So they all have an effect on the crime in the city. Do we have enough police? We know we don't. Do we need more police?
Yes.
Of course we do. Do we need more police? Yes. Do we want more police? No. No, I don't want more police. I don't want more police on the streets and sitting there giving me tickets, and I don't want to walk out my front door and see two policemen standing on the corner waiting for somebody to do something wrong, because I don't want to feel like I live in a military setting. I need police when I call them. Okay? We need more police. So the nuisance properties in the city of Canton, the vacant properties, are havens to gangs. Okay? We have areas that are run down in the city, and we're not addressing these nuisance properties, which are leading to more crime. We have vacant properties that are owned by investors in the city who are getting ripped off on a regular basis, which is leading to even more crime. So the point of the meeting is, why am I telling you what the problems are? We already know what the problems are. What are the solutions to the problem? We have a group of 3 young men here who I have been added to, and we've been referred to as the Young Turks. Still quite figure out how I'm considered young, but Martin Olson swears that I am young. And these are the 3 brightest young men I've ever had an opportunity to get to know. They're a pleasure to work with. They have great, fresh ideas. What are you 4 guys working on? What have you done? What's in the plans? And then ultimately, the single most important thing. What do you want?
Yes.
What do the people in this room want to see done? What are your concerns? What don't you like? Government was established to govern the people at the wishes of the people. Can't represent my ward if I don't know what my ward wants. And I'm not here, and neither are any of these gentlemen, to satisfy our own personal egos. Although we do have big egos, because if I didn't have a big ego, I wouldn't be standing in front of you with a microphone. And it's just obvious.
They've asked me to kind of go over a couple of things that we've done this year. I want to start last year, before any of us were actually elected to this job. I ran into an old friend at a rally downtown who brought me up to speed of some organizing going on over vacant, foreclosed housing. And this is Norman Mills, who is, anyone that knows Norman, our friend Tara over here who's clapping. Hi, Tara. Coined her super Norma, and that is very accurate. Norma was organizing to try to pass in Canton a extremely tough foreclosed vacant housing ordinance modeled after what other cities were doing. She asked me if I would attend this meeting, and I got up and I talked way too long. They asked me to talk for 2 minutes. I was up there for about 25. And next thing you know, I had found that I had taken over this ordinance and had agreed to introduce it once I was sworn in. What we did was we tweaked it to fit Canton rather than Worcester, Massachusetts, rather than Springfield, Massachusetts. We tweaked it. And honestly what we did is we made it tougher. We made it stronger. Because the big problem that we have is we don't even know how many vacant properties we have in the city. We have a guess, and it's thousands. But we don't know. So I said, well, first things first, you foreclose on a property. Somebody still owns it. It's the bank. The bank owns that property. They actually get to borrow money against that property from the Federal Reserve. So the first thing you got to do is you got to register that with us. And by the way, we're not going to charge citizens in the city to run that registry. You're going to pay a registration fee for every year that that house is vacant. You're going to pay for it. Then we're going to require you to bond that vacant house. Because if you're not doing your job and you're not mowing the lawn, which we know they're not because we're mowing about 5,000 of them at your expense, by the way. Instead of us using your money to mow that lawn, we're going to take it out of their bond. So if you don't do the job, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whoever the case may be, we're going to take your bond money and mow the lawn or board up the house. Or if you really let it go, we're going to take your money and tear it down. We're not going to take taxpayer money and tear it down. It's not our house. It's not your house or your house or your house. It's the bank's house. And they need to take care of it. So we introduced this, and we had a lot of back and forth. Frank and I sat in on a number of meetings, a lot of haggling back and forth. Pretty remarkable thing happened, though. It came downstairs in nearly the exact same form it went upstairs. And we passed it this year, one of the toughest vacant housing, foreclosed property ordinances in the state of Ohio or in the country. The real battle is we got to enforce it. Because the laws only work the enforcement. And we've already begun on that matter. And we've begun setting up the pilot enforcement and moving forward. There's different properties now that they're moving forward on. So it is coming. It is not as fast as I would like to see that. But we're moving in that direction. And I can tell you that the four of us are not going to rest until we see that every aspect of that law is in place. And we're no longer using your money to take care of $1 billion bank's properties. Now, I guess I also get lucky enough to bring you guys some good news. Anybody that's kind of followed what's going on, I know a lot of you are regulars at council meetings, but some of you are not. Very early in the year, there was a settlement in a federal bank case with 5 of the largest lenders. And the state of Ohio was given, essentially, what comes down to $75 million to demo foreclosed and vacant properties. We knew very early on, myself, Director Williams, the administration, others on council, Greg Hawk, I know was very instrumental in that as well, that we needed a land bank in order to really get our share of the money. The cities that had them, the counties that had them, were going to get the lion's share. We rushed very quickly and got one in place. Stark County was granted about $2.3 million to do demos with. Just in recent weeks, the city has gotten our first grant award of $1 million to demo these. These are matching funds. And we're also told there's a very good likelihood we'll see another $750,800 be awarded to the city. We'll call it $1.8 million to make it easy. We have to put up matching funds to that. For every dollar we put in, they'll match a dollar. One of the gentlemen at this table, and I believe it's right with you, John, mentioned the idea of, not all the money is eligible. We can't use federal money. One of the things we can do is we can issue a bond. Rather than lose all the money that we would get if we don't tear down the houses immediately, we can issue a bond to go tear down the houses right now. If we pass that bond the way it is structured now, along with that, we could see as much as $4.3 million in demos. Here's you take that, divide it by the cost of an average demo, that would come out to about 660 houses that are currently, it's more than what we have on our demolition list. 660 houses that could be on the ground and gone by the end of 2013. That is desperately needed. That is what we're all here to see, that get rid of the vacant properties. Everything on the demo list, if things go as planned, should be gone by the end of next year. Now the big question is then, what are we going to do from there? Because you can't just keep up with these things, tearing down a house as it comes vacant. You need to have a plan to move forward. What do we do with the lots? What do we do with the houses that are not in that shape yet? How do we stop them from getting there? And so that's a lot of what we're here about tonight is we know we're going to tear down hundreds and hundreds of houses next year. What do we do after that? Because we don't want to be back here in a few years talking about, well, that demolition list is right back to 400 or 500 houses. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. None of us should be willing to accept it, and none of you should be willing to accept us playing from behind year after year after year, being able to get in front of the problem, fix it, and prevent it, period. So I think that's about all my voice is going to handle for now. So anybody whose ears are bleeding from the sound of this, I apologize. But that's about as much as I will talk on this. But I just want to say, lastly, about Marty kind of calling us the Young Turks, which I've kind of enjoyed. One thing that's really interesting, I don't think a lot of people realize this. For the most part, the four of us really didn't know each other that well just a couple years ago. There was no big group coming in, some big plan. We all have very different backgrounds. You can see a couple of us wearing ties, a couple of us wearing jeans. We're all from different parts of the city, different backgrounds. But one thing that really, I think, kind of brought us all together very early on was just a willingness to talk to each other. You would be surprised every single week when the agenda comes out, along with others, Mary Sorelli for one, Greg Hawk for another. We're back and forth constantly. What do you think about this? We have an issue with parks that's on the agenda. Well, guess what? Mr. Morris here was on the Parks Board. Well, I want to find out what he knows about that. Edmund's a lawyer. I want to hear what Edmund has to say on legal issues. We've got one of our biggest resources the city has is water. We got John Merrill over here, who's been providing, how's it going? Making nature's water even better for 50 years. And then there's me, I'm just a nerd, but I talk a lot. So, but one of the things is we work with each other very, very well. It's been such a pleasure to sit, and it's us worked out to sit right along next to each other over here. It's been great, and I really look forward to continuing to work on these issues with these guys.
Well, my name is John Muriel, and I am the new Ward 7 councilman. I took Pat Horton's spot. I was appointed back in May. I want to thank everyone for coming, taking time out of your night to come down here and voice some of your concerns that you have with the city. It really is the most important thing that that can help us decide things when we're up here voting. Coming on, one of the things I did pretty early on was I started driving around Ward 7 to really get a feel of some of the issues. And one thing that I noticed were the boarded up homes, the vacant homes, the houses that were less than appealing. And kind of to follow up with what Kevin said of getting ahead of this, I have some statistics for you that, as I did some research, are incredibly alarming. From 2006 to 2012, the city of Canton, Ohio has lost 29% on average in their home values. Now, to put that in an even bigger perspective, that represents $450 million of equity loss in homes. And that is money that people use to send their kids to college, to start businesses, to do improvements that raise their property values and everyone else's property values. We have, according to our chief building official, we have about 1,100 homes in this city, give or take a couple hundred, that could come down and should come down. That's about $7 to $11 million of demos. And we have a majority of our homes in this city are rental properties. So the majority of people living in our city do not own their home. And most people's homes, that's their largest asset. That's what they use to do any type of improvements, to send their kids to college, to go to college, to start a business. And that's a real problem when it comes to investment in the city. When you look at these numbers, we have to do something with our homes to get values at least kind of stabilized and then to start increasing in value. And that's kind of where we're getting to. What are we going to do that? How are we going to stabilize prices? How are we going to get prices to go back up? And the biggest thing is the demo money, the matching funds. In 2012, we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars taking down homes. In 2013, we will be spending millions of dollars taking down homes. And that is huge. What that can do for our value in the whole city with our home values is just unbelievable. But there's a couple things that we're going to have to do to promote home ownership, to get people moving back into this city. While we are constantly competing with Plain Township, with Jackson Township, with other cities in this area, cities that have new construction, cities that have more efficient homes, and frankly, cities that are safer than ours. We have to provide something that attracts people to our city, that draws them to our homes. And we need to set up some type of down payment assistance program to get people who, young people like myself, I know this, that the minute I was financially able to move out on my own, I was looking for a house. And coming out of this recession, we have a ton of young people, young families who are living at home, who are finally on their feet, have a job, and are looking at starting a family, finding a place to put their roots in the ground. And we need to do something to allure them to our city, to cement them in Canton, to have them be a homeowner. And a down payment assistance program could really be a difference in that. We could attract so many people to this city. By doing that, getting some of the supply off the books, supply's down, demand's up, prices will start to increase. Along with that, and through this recession, we have a huge stockpile of foreclosed homes. And we really need to provide some type of grant, some type of forgivable loan to people so that they can buy these homes and not only purchase them, but fix them up. And every time we do that, we not only increase their home value, we don't only bring in a new taxpayer, but the surrounding homes in that area will also increase in value. And there has to be something that we are doing differently, because what we have done for a very long time is it's simply not working. And there has to be a change of course. We have to go down a different road. And programs like this, and things like Kevin did with the foreclosure ordinance, these can be game changers, and they are steps in the right direction. And that's one of the real nice things with serving with these guys, is that we all have a similar mindset that the route that we're going and the path that we're going in this city, it's unacceptable. It's not sustainable. And if we do not change course, and we do that, if we don't do that rapidly, we're going to get to a point to where it is going to be increasingly hard to come back.
My name is Edmund Mack. I am the Ward 8 councilman. Just everyone here is, I'm sure, familiar with what the ward boundaries are, but by way of Ward 8, if you live north of 37th Street, you're mine. So, it's a burden that I happily have. But, you know, I think Frank did a good job of framing the issue. What these four guys care about, are concerned about. I think Kevin did a good job of explaining to you, are you guys just up here sitting on your hands, or are you guys doing something? I mean, Kevin's foreclosure ordinance is truly cutting edge. I mean, he's being modest when he understates the effect that this ordinance is going to have on the city. And I think John, explained, what are some of the things in the pipeline, that the ideas that we have swirling around, the assistance program for down payments. We want home ownership in the city of Canton. No one here is going to disagree with that, period. We want mechanisms in place to try to stabilize the prices of our housing stock. Does everyone know? My remarks are aimed at what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? Now, obviously, you're a concerned citizen. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. But what can you do to deal with nuisance properties? That's what we're here to talk about. Well, I'm going to discuss that for a few moments. Many people don't realize that when you have a blighted home, or a green space, it's already done, next to your property, do you have to sit there and wait for that house, yard, to be advertised in the paper for sale in order for you to purchase it? The answer is no. The answer is no. There's going to be a program that some of you have heard about. If you've not heard about it, you will be hearing a lot more about it. It's called the Land Banking Program. This is a program that's based upon state legislation aimed at certain counties. I'm sure many of you know that Cuyahoga County has instituted, it's up and running. Our Stark County Land Banking Program is in its infancy, and it is going to be an amazing tool. Acquire properties, clean the titles, get them back into private ownership quickly. So you sit there yourself and say, Admin, I hear that. That sounds fantastic. How do I do it? When this thing is up and running, there's going to be an infrastructure put in place. It's being headed by a gentleman named Glenn Green. He's a former colleague of Kevin. Used to work, I believe, at the recorder's office, treasurer's office. The guy's an ace. When this program is put in place, he'll have a certain allocation of funds that he can utilize to help get these properties in your hands. So I'm telling you, we have enough lawns to mow, blighted properties to worry about. Getting these parcels back to private use is what we all want to do. Who's going to disagree with that? It's going to be answered. Until this program is up and running, there's also something else that you can do as well if you're interested in acquiring a green space. If you know someone who's interested in acquiring a green space or a blighted property, it's called the Stark County Interested Purchasers Program. It's run by the Stark County Recorder's Office. I've, to date, quarterbacked 3 transactions through this program. It's cumbersome. It can take as long as 2 years. Mine, I've been at around 9 months. But you get the property. You get it back to private use. You get it back, in many instances, just for the amount of back taxes.
What was the name of that again?
The Interested Purchasers Program. Listen, and you guys don't have to memorize this stuff. Call me if you live in Ward 8 or if you don't live in Ward 8. My phone number is 323-3755. That's 323-3755. If you're interested in the property, you know, get it. We actually just did one for a local community, or a local business here downtown. They're expanding to increase the number of apprentices they can hire. Took a transaction all the way through, and now they have a house. So don't think that you or your neighbors have to sit on your hands and wait for these things to go on sale in the newspaper. There's ways to do it, and there's ways to do it that are fairly inexpensive. Not going to be as cheap as we have a land bank. But there are things that you can do. Well, you know, not everyone is interested in acquiring property. What if you're just a concerned citizen like you are, and there's a house deteriorating right next door to you, or in your neighborhood? What do you do? What I tell my constituents now, so you're smiling because she knows, is you call your councilman. A lot of people don't realize that we have a very aggressive property maintenance code that was put in place in 2011. Call us. We will get someone out there from code enforcement. They'll issue a citation if it's appropriate. Every one of those citations add up. And it could do one of 2 things. One, you can get, the problem remedied. Fantastic. And if they don't remedy the problem, many people here may be familiar, trying to spend some of that money that John talked about for the demolitions. It's so much easier to get that done and to get these houses vetted through the system when you have that paper trail that's created. And you know, some people say, well, I don't want to be a nag, I don't want to call my councilman. No, 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 no. Because if you don't do something, problem's never going to get solved. We'll use the property maintenance code and we'll use it for exactly what it's implemented, designed to do, get either the problem fixed or get the house down. Because that's the job. You know, there's a lot of other things that we're working on as far as nuisance properties go. I think Frank explained that the phrase nuisance property kind of has more of an amorphous definition to it. I know personally, I think that still game parlors are nuisance properties. And there's some people in this room that probably feel the same way. Us four up here, along with others in the city of Canton, we've put a moratorium on new still game parlors. Reason being because we want the state of Ohio to take action. Mr. Olson and I were speaking before this meeting. It looks like we may be making some headway. The state of Ohio may take action. But the bottom line is, you don't want a still game place in your neighborhood. Or if you suspect one is going in, let us know. Because we can do what the laws in our city are put in place to do and try to stop it. But I think, you know, everyone's got an earful for me, the other, my three colleagues up here. The purpose of this meeting wasn't to talk at you, explain what our theory of the universe is. It's to hear from you. There's 4 of us, there's 12 councilmen, but there's 70,000 people in the city of Canton. And nothing's going to change if we don't have ideas.